I hope you are well refreshed and how is it going? All good? Right, this is always very cozy. Luckily enough there's no sun today, so that's already good news. And we have a solution for this, which we will illustrate in like 10-ish minutes. So before we even start, just one extra person here. So Francesca joins us from today. You will see her recurringly, and if you want to introduce yourself, I am in a no microphone policy usually,
okay.
so you should shout.
You will apologize me for my voice and everything. I'm here today not in my best shape, but I hope it will be fine anyway. My name is Francesca Fiore, as you mentioned. We are colleagues here at IBICT. I'm a research fellow. It's now 4 years, I would say. Before I was working as like a designer for software for elders with Casati. I don't know if any of you know him. Now we work together in the creation of a new Fab Lab, and I would say that's it. My background is in sociology, so I'm not a computer scientist as a background, but like after a few years I learned how more or less how to manage my relation or correlation with these strange guys. So I hope we will have fun together.
And she's doing fairly well, so I'm happy to have her here. So today's topic.
It was good to hear we are only strange guys.
Yeah, it's could have been much worse.
I wanted to be polite, and it's my
you.
first time with them. I don't want to.
All right. So I think it's fair what we were planning. So today we're going to be talking about skills. When I say we are going to be talking about skills, I'm actually saying that you are going to be talking about skills. So let's get there to how we're planning to do this. So today's class is going to be a bit different with respect to the ones that we've done before. I'm going to illustrate how this works in a few minutes. But the first question, let's start with some general sense making of this topic in general. Why do you think we talk about skills in a course about innovation entrepreneurship? Let's start from here.
But without skills, it's also difficult to innovate something. I mean, if I don't know how to innovate, if I'm not specialized in something, I cannot try to find out improvement.
Right. It's very difficult to innovate without skills. It's very difficult also to be entrepreneurial without skills. Can you folks give me examples of skills in general? Random order, no need to raise hands, just shout them. Communications, yes, what else?
Problem solving.
Creativity, problem solving.
Time management.
So, time management. Leadership.
Stress management.
Stress management. What else?
Teaching.
Pitching or teaching?
Teaching.
Teaching, okay. What else?
Agility.
Agility. Technical skills, yes. Pitching.
Being aware of like what is happening around.
Awareness and sense of what's happening in the world, yes. So I think one thing comes out of this thing, which is there is no single bucket in which to put these things. You've said some very specific things. Pitching, that's a very technique-oriented kind of skill. You've seen some, like, you've said some much broader ones, communications. We've said something which are like buckets for very practical things. Technical skills, I think we could say like programming, you know, they might be very narrow, very specific. But the point is, it's not a matter of just one single field, right? They don't take one single field of study, they don't take one single field of, society, they take all sort of things. So as you will see, this thing of skills is something which goes kind of across the various dialectics and discussions that are happening. It goes across education, politics, it goes alongside policy, it goes in the academic world, it goes in the business world. This is not just something that narrows one specific set. So in the next 3 to 4 minutes, I just want to show you some frameworks that have been proposed for skills. I will not spend too much time like discussing them, because then we will move on to something more live where you will do something. So this one here, and you will. I want to show you a number of things, and then I want to get some reactions from you. Okay. So this wheel here is the Entrecomp, the framework for entrepreneurial competences proposed by the European Union. So you see some of the words that you have been saying like appear here, because there's creativity here, there's spotting opportunities, so being aware of the world. There is something about critical thinking. There is coping with ambiguity, uncertainty, and risk. This will be a lecture in the future. Taking the initiative, right? So you see all these things.
Time management.
This time management. Yeah, planning and management. So this is coming from the European Commission. Okay. Another one. This one is in the OECD. Okay. This is a reinterpretation of the OECD skills for 21st century learners, something like this. And you see transdisciplinarity, sense making, another keyword for the future. Let's say one of the lectures. It's the resolution is really terrible, but I'll diffuse these things. Design mindset, cognitive load management, so something about stress. So yet another thing. This is something a bit older from Microsoft, Intel, Cisco. Again, 21st century skill. Again, OECD theme. You see communication, collaboration, teamwork, ICT literacy, creativity and innovation, critical thinking, problem solving, learning to learn, metacognition, right? So these sound like a bit like word salad. Life and career skills, core subjects and 21st century themes. So this is this P21. This picture you see it a lot if you are into this kind of policy and business field. And then there is this one, which is another one. This is by McKinsey. I didn't put the word here. And this one is again very broad fields: communication, collaboration, creativity, research. So just in these 2 minutes, what have you seen? What are the things that you see here? The main themes, feelings that you get, ways in which these things are presented. What are the common themes? What are the unique themes? What do you see in this mishmash of frameworks and stuff? Do they agree?
Who believes they agree? Raise your hands.
Okay.
A minority.
Who believes they disagree? They say something which is quite different.
No,
Well,
raise your
they
hand.
were very
Raise your
brave.
hand. We saw
Who thinks that these things are precise or accurate? Who thinks they're very loose and ill-defined?
Too many questions.
So no,
No,
they are
reactive,
catching up.
they're reactive.
So what? How would you make sense of this? What is from all these various things that you see here? What are the common elements that you see? What is the signal among this big noise? Snippets of signal. What do you see here? Yes.
Skills are shared.
Sorry.
Skills are shared.
Skills are shared. Some of them are, let's say, in more than one framework, and even from more than one sector, right? So creativity is basically everywhere. Okay, what else?
Interconnection.
There are interconnections among the frameworks, you mean?
No, I mean you need to have communication skills. The interview skills.
So there is always something about skills that allow you to connect with other people, right?
Like management skills in a sort of way, like even if I don't want to be a manager in any case,
Let's put this one, which is the biggest bucket. Yeah.
I can use this skill to manage my work or to work with other people.
There is always a managerial element. Yes, this is very true.
Working with information and data.
There is always something about the making sense of data and orchestrating information. Yes. What else? Actually, this will be a big topic later on in the course. In the courses.
Dependency.
Dependencies. What do you mean?
One module is dependent on other somehow.
Yeah, they try to outline in some way interdependency among the various elements that they put. There's always a bit of this idea that you have various layers, nesting of layers and so on. Yeah.
I went to see leadership, like how to lead other people.
Okay, there are elements of leadership very often. Yes, I agree. Taking the initiative, working with others. I'm sorry, the resolution is not too high. I'll read them for you. What else?
They are all soft skills and they can be applied to any environment.
Yeah, they are. You call them soft skills, and they are. Let's say they are horizontal. They don't take just one field; they take all fields. Actually, we made a very deliberate choice not to call them soft skills for this lecture, and you will see when we draw some conclusions, you will hear a perspective of why we did this decision. We took this decision. Yeah. What else?
There is one of the framework which like quotes ICT literacy. That is a bit of borderline. You are completely ICT, so your skills on ICT are very high. So on ICT literacy, all of you are super expert. So on that would be a technical, vertical type of, but is not in all of that. So that's a peculiar one. Digital.
And do you see these? So if you think about the OECD, right? The OECD area, so the areas where OECD has enough. You know what OECD is?
No.
All right. Does anybody know what OECD is? And they can help me with the acronym because I'm terrible. Organization for the Cooperation and Economic Development. Something like this.
Right.
For Economic Cooperation and Development. Right?
Yes.
OECD. So this is a big policy organization, a big bucket organization, which kind of makes lobbying and orchestration. Well, they do one big thing, which is gathering of data. In Italian, it's called OCSE. Maybe you know it by this name if you're Italian. Because all of you probably had to do a silly test at some point in their school where they had to like fill a lot of like very narrow questions to try to test their understanding of text and so on. So they do a lot of data gathering and they do a lot of, let's say, lobbying and politics at a very high level. They are in the European Commission, they have some like very tight contacts there. The UN, they're a big policy organization. Right. So these things come from all over. We've seen they are mostly horizontal. They're loosely defined, we said. And if you think of all the world in which they can be seen, do you think they are uniformly applied in the world? So do you think like time management is equally done in Italy as it is done in Germany as a skill? Of course not, right? There is a big diversity in this. So you will be able to maybe dig up some numbers and some things. Right, so today we want to kind of do a shared exercise, okay? So we will be dividing you in columns. So this is basically column 1 plus one or two of the gentlemen there, column 2, column 3, 4, yada yada, okay? And the left wing of the class, at least from my perspective, will come with myself and Francesca to room A208, okay, which is like down the corridor here. The rest of the class will stay here. And you will work in this kind of big groups, and we'll ask you the following. Take one of the skills that you find in these frameworks or somewhere else. We'll try to give you a link to the slides. And you should take time until, I have very precise timekeeping. You should take time until 3:30, so you'll have more or less 40 minutes, to discuss these skills in the group by row, okay? And then you will have, each row will have 5 minutes of class time in which they can do whatever they want to present this skill to the rest of the class. Okay?
You should pick one.
You should pick one and only one. You should decide this and communicate it in the class once we separate the groups, right? So that we don't have 5 presentations about creativity or whatever. Okay? You should pick one and only one and take time to research this and to find a way to present it. We have some guiding questions, which are the following, okay? If you want to take a picture, otherwise we'll distribute the slides also. These are some guiding questions, some things which we think you might see them as relevant. Okay? So, this exercise is ill-defined, yes. Okay? In the same way that these skills are ill-defined. We're not giving you a precise way on how to proceed. If you want to do slides for 5 minutes, we can do slides for 5 minutes. If you want to do an activity with your colleagues that illustrates the skill in action in 5 minutes, you can do a skill in action. If you want to pitch it like if it were a startup, you can pitch it as if it were a startup. Just stay within 5 minutes. Okay? Right. Do we have questions on this process? Here all together, otherwise we will split and then we can have more questions.
One note could be that if you, for example, choose communication, one team on this class will choose communication. You have like 3 or 4 or 5 frameworks to look at, okay? Because communication is in almost all of them. If you choose for ICT literacy, which could, for you, one group could be relevant, then you have a bit less sources because there are less frameworks that quote ICT literacy, just for your knowledge.
But you will be able to dig any of these keywords. You will be able to dig piles of information. All right.
Would you show the skills again?
Yeah, I will try to give you the link to the slides. Maybe Chiara, you can help with putting a link there.
Is that you keep that computer in the other
Exactly,
room.
exactly.
I will use my computer here.
Exactly.
If you need, we scroll it and
Okay.
we project them.
Another
Okay?
thing that we would like to ask you is this. For each group, in the end, try to get us one link that we can add to a library of references that we'll have at the end of the slides to distribute. Okay? All right. So, left-wingers, you can use computer. You can use anything. You can even go to have coffee. Actually, we brought incentives for free consumption of yourself, as in a bag of chocolates that will stay here. A bag of chocolate will come with me, and yeah.
But in 40 minutes you have to answer to those questions.
Left wing. The audio, there is also that. All right, so in the benefit, sorry folks. From now on, let's keep some silence, please, okay? Just because we respect the people that are presenting. Hello? Sorry. Okay? So, to respect the people that are presenting, from now on, let's keep some silence. The only thing is that since because we are very bound on time, I will keep a timer. Okay? If you hear this thing beeping, please wrap it up very quickly.
Okay.
Okay? So first of all, yeah.
Is it possible you put the timer on the table so we can see
Of
it
course.
ourselves?
Yes. Of course. Yeah. All right. So whenever you want.
Yes, we are team 1 and we were talking about communication. Well, why is communication so important? Well, you see a very big group of people standing right there. We all don't know each other and we were sent to do something together. Well, with a group like that, that's pretty difficult. So basically what happened with us is 1 or 2 people, they took the lead and they started talking, asking, does everybody agree? And slowly you started to see the roles in the group and we communicated what we were good at. So we had an investigation group, a presenting group, and somebody who makes a slide. So in this case, our teamwork, what we first had to do together is to manage the chaos of having such a big group. And that was done by communication. Also, we experienced if you have a bigger group, it's way more complex to get the order in there. So therefore, communication is really key. Why is communication also important on work? Well, for example, for effective interaction. For example, if you and your teammate are working on a code and you don't specify to each other what you're doing, it could be that you're both working on the same code. That is not only time waste, but also money waste. So that's another reason why it's so important. And time management in that, of course, the other person could have been working on something else if they had communicated that better. Communication is also for social interaction. We use it as students to get to know each other, also to learn about education, to learn about what we have to do. But for example, politicians like Trump here, he also uses this to share his thoughts and his views to you.
This brings us to the next part. So what is communication? The first example of communication you can think about is something speaking to a human speaking to another human. And this is basically the base of society and everything that humanity has ever been. So what this tells us is that hierarchical situations are formed around communication. Politicians can use this, let's say, in a good or in a bad way. If the classical example is the President of the United States, the former President, Barack Obama, on Twitter used to communicate, let's say, important stuff or important steps of the nation to everybody. Donald Trump, I don't know if you follow his Twitter, but it's quite a lot of ranting and blubbering about nothing. So it's a very different form of communication. And this tells us that communication can be also misused and used, let's say, in a... it's not provocative, but it's a manner in which the message is conceived and it's practically empty. So Twitter is only one of the forms of communication. The first form used in the past were, let's say, writing, so newspapers, and pictures, also on newspapers or stuff like that. Also some form of audio, let's say the old radios and stuff like that, which, let's say, gave the humanity a way of communicating to everybody. The new age of communication emerged with the internet, let's say, so everybody suddenly were connected with everybody else on the planet. And this made possible, I think, no. Sorry, there was a miscommunication there.
Folks in the back, just, yeah.
And the idea is to have everybody connected, and that opens other problems. Like we are all connected, but nobody is speaking to anybody like they used to. So it's some form of loss of communication in the immediate term to gain some communication worldwide. Some other forms of communication, of course, with the increasingly amount of data and stuff like that, could be potentially videos and stuff more complex, which can carry more messages to the to everybody, to whoever looks at the communication, to whoever receives it. And this could be a good example, for example, of commercials and whatever is around the innovation in, for example, technology. If you think about the launch event of the new iPhone, nobody would know it, and I will finish. Nobody would know it if it weren't for the marketing team, which can create so much material on that everybody is informed. So everybody knows what the new products is about, and probably for an entrepreneur is quite worth the time spent for money, of course.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next team, let's go very quickly. I stole somebody's pen, but I will return it in the end, I swear. Who was it? Whose was this pen? This pen that was here on the desk? Well, I will return it to where I found it. Quindi è stata socializzata dai...
No, mi sa che no, non c'entra.
Certo, però ci metti troppo tempo a cambiare. Ok, allora intanto facciamo partire il prossimo gruppo. Ok, leadership group. Are you here? Number 3? Will you come over just because they need to transfer the slides and so on?
No.
Yeah, just do it here while they're presenting. Okay? Yes, of course. Yeah, please, come over. Okay? Creativity, you don't have USB keys, right? Where are you? Creativity? Good. So are you ready to present?
Yes.
Go for it. You're next, okay? Qual è?
Presentazione senza titolo.
Ok.
Perché mi servirebbe l'adattatore.
Sì.
Infatti pensavo...
non mi va. Devi, perché si è aggiornato il computer. Fai un PDF, sì, grazie. Alright, whenever you want, start the timer and go. Sorry folks, just one thing. It's very disrespectful if you keep chattering. Sorry, you're chattering still, okay? It's not respectful. Okay, please, whenever you want, you start the thing.
Let's go with it. Creativity.
tough one. So we all know, we have all listened to it. There's a news that comes around that computers can do almost anything. As the technology develops, they can calculate anything. They can, I don't know, take the job of almost anyone that you find around. What computers cannot do as of now is being creative. And this is a really important point in the discussion of how creativity is fundamental to innovation and entrepreneurship. People say that creativity is innate. You know, you are born being creative, but this is not actually true. I mean, it's possible that it's not true. There are researches that show that creativity can be learned and can be developed. For instance, by living in a stimulating environment, having new challenges proposed to you, new problems, and you have to face it. So if you start from a young age, you can face those problems, and you can come up with new solutions without following any schemes or paths that institution can bring you on. So a very important point that we reasoned on is that institutions in a digital age, in the digital age in which we're living, should be able to create stimulating environments for students in general. So possibly like this course is even doing as well. So they do not expect you to follow some kind of path, but they organize and they present you new challenges, new problem. They challenge you to face those problems in new ways without telling you precisely how to do things, as is happening right now. And this is very, very important. So why creativity is fundamental to innovation and entrepreneurship? If you develop a creative spirit, you see things from a different perspective. You are not imposed some kind of visions. You get to think outside the box, have your own way of interpreting reality. And this is a fundamental skill, as I was saying, even for the digital age, which is possibly typical of entrepreneur, and must be typical of entrepreneur. I mean, technically, anyone could be capable of leading a venture or an industry. But creative people get to do it in a successful way. So, creativity can be learned. The institutions can create environments for people to become more creative. And the more people are creative, and the more they can propose new solutions. They can see things from perspective which are new, and can, with the use of technology, through the means of technology, be able to actually build these solutions and propose new services of any kind. We see it every day. I don't know, digital information, the bioinformation to unlock phones or whatever. These kind of things always bring up new solutions to everyday problem. Is a key element, is a key skill for innovation, being innovative and having an entrepreneurial spirit. So, I think that's it. Oh, wow.
Perfect. Thank you.
4 minutes.
Thank you.
We had a picture to preview, but can we use your computer?
Yes, of course. But I think it's okay. Well, if you do it very quickly, yeah, go for it.
Internet.
Okay. In the meantime, the third group, can you bring your presentation over? Thank you. The second to resurrect.
Yes, this one.
Okay. So this is the main concept of IBICT.
All right.
nowadays we are getting access to a huge quantity of information due to the development of the technology, and but what we can do as humans is to use this information as wiser as possible to go think outside the box and develop new ideas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so the group on time management. Oops, no. You just press the arrow over here. All right, start the timer, please. Remember to.
No, faccio io.
Is it? E vai quando vuoi.
Okay, so time management. Time management means is the ability of planning your activity, is the ability of being able to control the time that you have at your disposal. Time management today is very important in every aspect of the life, especially when you are at school, at university, at work, also in your own private life, because this allows you to do things in a faster way without losing time. And this is very important, especially at work, because time means money. And so you want to do things without losing time in a more efficient way. And also, being able to manage the time that you have at your disposal means that you are able to organize yourself, and so you are less stressed. You have less anxiety. Okay. So these are some tips that we have to apply the time management in a very accurate way in your life. So set goals correctly. That means give you some objectives that are measurable, that are achievable. Okay. Prioritize wisely. That means prioritize things that are very important for you and that are more urgent. Set a time limit, because if you put some constraints on your everyday life, this push you to be more focused and more efficient. Take breaks between tasks because this allows you to be more focused. And you have to clear your mind between every task that you do. And organize yourself. That's a point trivial, okay? Remove non-essential tasks, because in this way you can have more free time. You can have more for your activity that really matters for you, and plan ahead. That means every day when you wake up, you have to have clear in mind what you are going to do in that day. And this is the turn.
In order to do everything that my colleagues said, now because we are in the 21st century, we have plenty of applications and websites that can help us with it. We took here like 3 examples. The one is called Toggle. It's like for a big company that want to log every activity in a common timetable, and the most important stuff about Toggle is that you can have the analytics based on team, client, project, or tag. So you are 100%, let's say, sure that you can see every activity that was done in the company at a certain time. The second one is pretty amazing. I didn't know about it until now. It basically connects all other applications in your phone with your time schedule application. So basically, in the morning you can make the whole schedule for the whole day, and the application will be sure that it will call for Uber for you and put different Google Maps addresses on your phone. And the last one, it's more about analytics and more like a personal time management. Yeah, the most important stuff with this app is basically that if it sees that you are spending too much time for like fun activities and not work, it will stop procrastination by blocking your access to the websites. So yeah, basically that was it.
Thank you. All right. Yeah. Who's next? Leadership, right? Don't worry if we don't make comments. We will make them later together. Okay. Start the timer over there. You press the button, yeah.
Okay, so our topic is leadership. We believe that a key factor in the success of any organization is the quality of leadership present in it. Every organization has leaders and bosses, but these are not synonyms. So we want to ask to you, what do you believe you are, a boss or a leader? To make clear this difference, we want to give you some examples.
Okay, so I will be the boss.
And I'm the leader.
Okay, and these are our key points. For example, I focus on themselves, on me.
I focus only on my group.
Okay, I criticize, so if you do a bad work, you are responsible for your work.
I always encourage my group every time.
Okay, I talk more than I listen because I'm the boss and I know how the work is done.
And I always listen at my group instead of talk.
Okay, I give answer because you know I know everything. So.
And I always seek a solution.
Okay, I defend my ego.
And I reveal vulnerability.
Put blame on others because you have to do your work and you have to do it correctly.
And I take my responsibility.
Ladies and gentlemen, look at the two, a leader and a boss. If you are to work with one, whom are you going to choose? Are you going to work with a boss or you would like working with a leader? Because a leader will listen to his people for a team to grow, for an organization to grow and fare well. It is the leader who is supposed to make sure things are in place. And if you are working with a leader who encourages you, who motivates you to work, you will feel happy, you will feel welcomed. Because in this our society, everyone wants to feel at home, everyone wants to feel welcomed, everyone wants to feel accepted in a group. And when you go to work every day, you'll be thinking, oh, today I'm going to meet this man again. He's going to be shouting on me. He's going to criticize me. Already you are leaving your house with panic and fear that you are going to meet this boss again. But when you are working with a leader, you go there, I'm going to meet my leader again. He's going to motivate me. Even because of his motivation, you work extra hard to help the team grow. So leadership as an example is a key factor which is needed in any organization for it to grow. That is all we have to say. Thank you.
All right, critical thinking. Where are you? Great.
Hello to everyone. We talk about critical thinking, that is at the basis of innovation, because the critical thinking is the ability to look at something that look like perfect, very good, at the state of the art, and with your knowledge you can apply, I don't know, something that comes from other field, and you try to improve something that, as I mentioned before, looks already perfect, already at the state of the art. This helps the innovation finding a new way to do something that it was already good. So now I invite my colleagues to explain you why critical thinking is so important.
The tool, critical thinking is the tool you need to shape new idea. And that's because you have to be able to look to your weak point in order to improve them. You have to find vulnerabilities, you have to find the points that needs to be enhanced in order to succeed. And you have to always push forward, always always try to see forward and far away, because you have to travel a long distance. And how to develop a critical mind? It's important to be curious about the world. You have to go out there and watch the nature, watch the birds that fly, and understand why they have to move their wings, and what about keep them fixed and use, for example, fuel to move the airplanes. So you have to be curious and find what others, the errors the others may have done, and then try to improve them. Then you have to use your experience because you have to build your bag of knowledge and use it. And also you have to be humble and ask for help, because it is important to learn from the errors of others, but it's also very important to learn about yours. So be open to accept criticism and to improve your own projects.
Critical thinking is a critical mind, but it's still a thinking. So we have to put it into practice. And if you have the critical thinking, you may involve many advanced skills to be applied, such as open-mindedness, or the critical action, or some practical skills. And you can make your mind into practice very quickly. And only if you have the results, you can, if your critical thinking is not correct, and you can change your thinking and then do the iteration. So from the thinking to the practice, and the practice help us to improve our thinking. So that's the advantages of critical thinking.
So, just an example to remind a critical mind is our starman, Elon Musk. Yes, that's him. So everyone knew him for Tesla, SpaceX, but he was born basically with PayPal. That was, let's say, a company that based his own success on the fact that instead of all others companies like XCOM, Moneycom, stuff like that, he saw the online market from a different angle. He said, why don't I pay users for using my site? And that's how he made. He just sold $20 for every user that would just at the beginning get into PayPal. So in something like 2-3 months,
or others, companies were more or less empty, and he got 2,000 million users, which actually means to sold to eBay, and he got, and then after 1 year or two, I don't remember exactly, he sold the paper instead for $1.5 billion. That's where he started working on Tesla and SpaceX. Also, two critical companies. Tesla because it changes completely the logical of machines, of vehicles, and SpaceX because since it's the first quite large company that works on space with I'm finishing, with shuttles. They just said we do not have enough money to go on space with standard fuel like hydrogen, so we are just making use of standard methanol and stuff like that, of air gas to save money basically, because they're not a government, they cannot afford a lot of money wasted. But that's it. There could be also a lot of other examples, like Bezos and stuff like that. Oh yeah. Of course, in this world, now, especially in the last 20 years, digital world has made it extremely more easy, more fast, these ideas to share. That's it.
Thank you. All right, finally.
You will read this, I guess?
No.
I think it's better if you use this, just because the HDMI is a bit flexible.
Hello everybody. We will talk about pressure management, a skill that is really nowadays asked for in the work environment, but we will see that it's also very useful for everyday life. So we will stick with three main concepts. Why it's so useful, pressure management, who needs it, and especially, let's say, where we find it the most. So, thank you. I will give it.
Okay, we can here the pressure management is useful near everywhere, and so we can see in business from all level of a business hierarchy, from the managers to the top level to the bottom levels, and also on everyday life, thinking about our parents or that's needed to manage between work and the social life. And there is one thing that emerge both on standard life and on environment life of a wrong pressure management, and it's the burnout. Burnout means a mental illness that came out from too much stress and wrong management stress.
Who are involved in this kind of mess? But basically everyone, also me, right here, right now. And why? Whenever we have to talk about too many people like this, or whenever we have to submit some work to our employer. So this is kind of feeling that affects everyone. And what is important is to distinguish the good pressure from the bad pressure, because it can, let's say, give us a sort of improvement because it stimulates us, or it can also damage us. And what we are in this society aiming nowadays is more on other judges instead of our health. So we have to keep in mind this thing, and basically I finish.
Okay, so how to develop this skill? The slide is pretty clear. So try something new. Try something, commit error, try to improve from your error. Do extra activities, could be sports, could be, I don't know, playing theater, everything that puts you out of your comfort zone, and then work on your discipline. If you decide to do something, if you decide to put you in some kind of situations that are unlikely for, with respect to your user situation, try to finish what you start, try to keep stuck in this thing and try to figure out a way out.
So my specific suggestion about how to develop your pressure management ability is to make a list of your sources of your pressure, like the things you have to do, like paper you have to done or report the deadlines. Then you have a list and you delete those things you shouldn't do or you can distribute to others, and something you can refuse. And now after you delete all the stuff, you can really start working on those things. Like generally saying, whenever you begin, the feel of pressure will cut a little, and that's a good start to management your pressure. So that's.
Okay. Right. Thank you. Okay, let me just really quickly see how at what point are the others, and maybe we have some time for feedback. Otherwise, we move to that. Give me just a second.
Meanwhile, how was it?
Was good.
Was good?
Yeah.
Was it interesting to listen to the other group?
Yeah.
Okay. And how was to, let's say, develop something in such short time with a new group? Difficult? Why?
A lot of pressure.
This is why you chose that topic.
Not a lot of pressure, but then you have some short time, so you have to try to choose what you want to say, what you don't want to say, and finish before the end of the deadline. So
You have to communicate, manage your time, to manage the pressure, to be creative.
So actually all the topics you actually picked were into this exercise, right?
Yes.
So you needed all those skills.
But probably if you think make a presentation not so good, but enough.
Enough? Okay.
So there are some points where, like, if you think of the beginning of the course, which was 2 weeks ago, when we were in the big room with everyone there, Milena had to come to you with the microphone. Did any of you use microphones now?
No.
I think you gained 20 decibel in voice volume just in 2 weeks, which is not bad, huh? But I'm saying this as a joke, but also as a reality. Okay, so you should start seeing these things as elements that kind of pile up in how you're progressing through this course. Okay, so for how many of you it was the first time presenting something, or even standing here in front of a classroom? None of you? You all did this before? Okay, that's interesting, because actually in the previous years we actually found many people that never did this before. Never did this before. So it's interesting. So.
But did you have just 30 minutes to prepare everything?
No.
Or were you more prepared? Okay.
But it is always difficult to speak in front of if you are prepared.
Okay, so it doesn't matter so much.
So just look at one thing, though, which was a point of process, I think, for the whole thing. How you manage engagement. Okay? So, slides, no slides. Independently from this, the key point is how do you manage engagement, right? So independently from the time you have to prepare something, when you are presenting, you are managing how the people are looking at you. And this is very different depending on who present and how you develop your way of presenting. Because how you look at me now is different from how you were looking at your colleagues before. And it's different how you look at each other when you are in a group here. So what are the differences? Well, you can think about it because we don't have too much time to discuss it, but it's one point which is there. Another point which is interesting to me is the way you approach this either as a safe exercise or as a bold exercise. Okay? So if, when we were thinking of this, we were expecting that somebody would, step up and say, well, I was thinking of this at least, on time management and some of these things, I was expecting that somebody would step up and do something like really crazy. Okay? So like, I don't know, presenting a framework or having everybody do an activity where you ask them in 5 minutes to prepare something, right? Time management. Or where creativity, you ask everybody to pull out a piece of paper and do some strange drawing, maybe that exercise with thinking out of the box, whatever. I don't like it, but it's something that happens.
For a while, I wish someone of you was going to sing or something like that.
Yeah. But you all went for presentations, okay? But I'm sure that all of you could have done the other things as well. The point is, you have a limited pool of resources and energies you can pour into this. So when even if you are taking topics which are very much about going out of the beaten path, you default to one thing that you have seen happening for so many times, which is presenting frontally. This is also because, your energy went into something else, went into making this in 30 minutes, which you never did before. Okay? So some of you tried some more bold things, right? So they switched the speakers and they started, having this dialogue that we had here before where you folks that were having, the leadership people, you have this dialogue going on here, right? So, but it's, how you distribute your overhead goes into various parts. So in this case, you distribute it into making sense of the group, because there's a group of 13 there, right? There's a group of 7, 8 here, that's a group of 6 or 7. I mean, the size of the group was not uniform. You never saw each other, most probably. And if you notice, we took the columns. Why did you think we did this?
Because the rows are, maybe there are people who know each other.
Rows are biased, right? Rows are biased. So at the next class, you will align in columns, right? So that's where we will start taking diagonals. But it's true. The process of destabilizing is something you can design, right? And you can plan. Timekeeping was another big point. Some of you went overtime, some of you went beyond, like with too short. What do you think? Was the time appropriate or not? The 5 minutes, were they too much, too little? What do you think?
It was okay.
Was okay? So who thinks too much? Who thinks too little?
And
maybe you can expand very quick, very briefly. Too little?
Well, it's easy to put a lot of beef on the fire.
Yeah.
So maybe for very complex topics, some more time would be needed.
Okay, who thought it was just right, 5 minutes? All right, so I think with Francesca we're seeing that we agree it was too much time. If you had done this in 3 minutes, it would have been much better. Because most of you actually finished their energy and their content within the first 3 minutes. It's not a problem, it's something which happens, okay?
Actually, it was interesting to see how some of the groups tried to fill in something to actually manage the 5 minutes. So since we told you have 5 minutes, this is the task, so try to stick to the 5 minutes. I saw some of you put examples. I know I took to some of the group, for example you. So squeezing in some concrete example to make people better understand, but they were not needed. So it was interesting to see how did you actually try to find a solution. So this was also part of the creativity process. So problem solving. Okay, they gave us 5 minutes. What do we say? So
last point on this point of timekeeping, on going overtime, then we move to the other class because they went overtime. Independently from how much time you are given, there is always a tendency to go overtime. You will see this happen all the time. If you tell people, make me a 2-hour presentation, it will take 2 hours and 10 minutes. There's no way around this. So fitting in the time is a skill that you learn as you keep practicing presentations. And you will find out very quickly, I hope, that people very much appreciate when you go with less time. And suddenly, when you finish with time in advance, people will have tons of questions, which never happens if you finish right on the mark or overtime. And it makes it much more interesting. All right, let's move. Let me just check first before we invade. Actually, let's invade them. Who cares? People that stayed here, did you have some time to do some stock taking or not? You just finished with the presentations? Yes. All right, good, very good. So we had some time in the other room, but I don't want to go too much into this. The point I would make is this. Let's now focus a bit on meta reflections. Okay, so reflections about the process and reflections about the topic that we covered. Okay, so you saw some presentations. Probably you might have seen something which was interesting. Most likely you have seen something which you already knew and which was not incredibly mind-blowing. But the point is, you fit this into a process which was unknown to you before. Probably for the people that were in this room, I guess you will be mostly on the right-hand side, but I think it's mostly. Was it the first time you were presenting in front of a class? No, okay. Actually, last year we were saying some people it was the first time. Was it the first time you were asked to make a presentation half an hour with 12 people you never knew before?
Yes.
Probably yes, right? So you have seen how much of your mental energy went into that. In the other class, it was interesting because we had some very good presentations, I think, for half an hour of time to prepare them. They were all frontal presentations. They were all people speaking. So their overhead, their mental energy went into making sense of where they were going. And they had to fall back to having some space, some safe space. The safe space to make, a decent job.
We also had the theater play here.
That's amazing. I lost things. I was in the wrong room, clearly. So we want to draw two quick conclusions. First, what you have seen today. So there's people of you. Historically, this course has been mostly hated by people that are in telecommunications engineering. So I respect this, but I have bad news for you. And the bad news is the following. So when you hear people rambling about skills, you think this applies to you if you're an entrepreneur, if you want to open a startup, right? Well, that's not true. Because first of all, you will see, especially next Monday with Milena, entrepreneurship is not just about opening startups, it's about intrapreneurship, it's about entrepreneurial mindset, even when you're operating in an organization. But the worst news for you is that since we have seen this as business literature, this means your CEOs are reading this shit, okay? And they're passing it to the HR managers that are the ones that are recruiting you, okay? So even if you want to be an employee, these are things they will ask you, even if you don't believe in them, right? So having a class is a safe space to be acquainted with this before an interview, or before they start throwing these things at you and you say, oh, what is this crap? But yet you have to make sense of it. Okay? The second point of conclusions is something I would leave to Andrea to say about these barriers we were discussing yesterday.
Okay, my first experience of job was at Fiat Research Center, maybe I told at the first lesson. And what is interesting there is that if you go in such a big company like that, maybe in startups can be that, well, in startup, if the startup is yours, you decide whatever you like until it's legal. Until it's legal. But if you are not in a startup and you are in a corporate, for example, Fiat Group, Fiat Kaiser Group, Fiat Research Center is only 2,000 people up of a group that is 150,000 people. So it's all around the world. And if you wanted to reach a certain level, so there are called level, in Italian is livello 0, 1, 2, 3, you reach level 7. After level 7, you are quadro, which is a sort of intermediate level before arriving to be an executive, which means a dirigente for the Italians.
Manager.
No, manager is
okay.
lower. Executive is higher.
All right.
You can be a project manager without being an executive. So reaching not only dirigente level, but even the quadro level, so the one immediately before, you needed to have at least a master degree. Without master degree, you stop there. It's a simple rule of a corporate. So for you, you are already an advantage. But this is something that let you reach that level. But what is interesting is that it is necessary, but it is not sufficient. Because to reach a level of quadro or executive, you need to have a lot of these skills, despite you have a degree. So it is necessary to have a degree to reach above that, but you need much more. So to be sufficient, you need to have other skills.
So the trick here is to balance between the technical skills that we were saying before and the hard requirements, which in some sense work as barriers within organizations and within different legislative contexts. And then these soft barriers, which are not there, they're not clearly stated, but if you can't overcome these soft barriers, you are stuck in the exact same way. Because if you can't connect with your manager to talk about your advancement of career, you might have a master's degree, but you stay there. Okay? So this is a very short conclusion of this.
Harsh but short.
Harsh but short.
And as a take-home for today, you can also start thinking, which are your skills? What are you good at? Or what can you improve? Because this is the time that you have to work on it. It's not just about learning stuff, learn something about coding and so on. This is something you will do anyway. But what else? What can you work on? What can you improve? And where can you find these skills? Actually, you can even use us as a leverage to find some more skills. So use us also as tools.
And you will see patterns, okay? You will see patterns, which means that since you are good at something, you will keep doing that thing. One of the things that I think university is decently good at is allowing you to break these patterns. So if you are bad at speaking in public, you should better speak in a class rather than in front of executives that can fire you. All right, so next steps. This is what happens on Monday, okay? Wednesday we will tell you on Monday, we will have parallel classes. Monday we have a plenary lecture here in A205, okay? So it will be, let's say it's here unless we find a better room, which fingers crossed, but never know with admin. So in the meantime, we give you a certainty, which is that we have this room, okay? So plenary lecture with Milena on entrepreneurship, technology entrepreneurship. Different ways to see technological entrepreneurship, okay? I&D basics, you will be communicated in the coming days in which battle group you are. 1 to 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Battle group number 1 will have a battle preparation in room 204. I didn't put the room, but I will put it later. Room 204, but we'll say it again to you on Monday, okay? For around 1 hour. IBICT, you will have a battle preparation, not here, but probably in one of the rooms upstairs. We will book it for you anyway. And you will also receive a communication about what your group number is, okay? For everyone else, at 5:30, we will book a room upstairs in Povo 2, and we will kickstart the process that we were saying of the social sharing, of the sharing of your passions and so on, which we were discussing last time. Probably we'll have some tea and whatever. We'll be in a very cozy room. Those of you that want to be there, feel free to be there. Those of you that cannot be there, don't want to be there, think that we are annoying, please don't come. It's fine. We don't track you. We don't kill you. It's completely up to you, okay? If you want to share this, it's okay. If you don't want, there's no discrimination, no pressure whatsoever. We don't keep a note of who is there, who is not. Please, this is not our style. Also because there's 120 of you who will not remember who you are, most likely. Sorry. All right. Lastly, EIT digital students, are you here?
Yes.
Right. So I will need to run to another class, but I would ask you, please, those of you that want to, tomorrow there will be some hard physical work to do because the kickoff is happening here in Trento, as you know. And tomorrow, 20 big boxes of t-shirts and sweaters are going to come here to Trento, and nobody is there to move them around except for Anelia and myself, which is 2 people for 50 boxes. So if any of you have some time tomorrow afternoon to move some boxes, half an hour, we would very much appreciate it. Maybe you can leave to Andrea or to Chiara your name, and I will be in touch, okay? In the afternoon, I don't know precisely. I will make a Telegram group and try to figure this out. You have lectures? If you have lectures, it's okay. If you have time to help us with this, leave your name here, and then we will have it. All right. Any questions on this? On all that happened in the last 2 hours? Yes?
The soft and the hard barrier, which one was which?
Hard barrier, you don't have a degree, you can't go over. Soft barrier, if you don't have the skills, you will still not be able to go over.
Okay, thanks.
Any questions? All right, if not, we will see you on Monday. Ciao.